Andy, welcome to Mint. Thank you so much for being on. How are you?
Adam, thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Good, man. Good. Let's just jump right into the basics. Tell me a bit about yourself. Who are you, Andy? What were you doing before crypto, and kind of where are you now?
These days, I'm a social token influencer by night. By day, I'm a partner at Social Capital. I've been in the venture capital space for the last 8 years. Before that, I was VP of analytics and finance at a gaming startup called OMGPOP. Um, Kind of a precursor to crypto in a way. Gaming communities feel very similar and very related to crypto. So I was building social games there. We had a game called Draw Something, which was popular for a minute in March 2012. Before that, I studied physics, so I was coming from a science background.
So actually, how did your so you studied physics, okay? Very far field from investing, very far from gaming. How did you go from the physics route to the gaming route and now to crypto? Like, what was that transition like?
Transition was rough. I think all transitions. There's no such thing as a smooth transition, in my opinion. Um, I was curious about how the world worked, so I liked understanding, like at the atomic level, protons, neutrons. Quantum was very interesting, like a probabilistic view of the world. But going deeper into science was a different path I wasn't ready for. Um, so I got into finance. I had loans to pay. Worked at
Yeah.
IBM. Learned how to use Excel. Learned how companies think about buying other companies. Got to see the flow of funds of who cashes out, where the value is created. At IBM, we were this large company with a lot of loyal executives that were buying these smaller startups, and so I fell in love with that process, and that's what led me to join a startup. So I reached out to a bunch of folks in my network. OMG Pop got connected through a friend of a friend, um, and yeah, I really love the gaming space. I've always been a gamer. Grew up playing StarCraft, Diablo 2, Warcraft 3. So
RuneScape, Club Penguin, any of those?
Club Penguin was after my time. That was like 2006. I think I was already in
Man,
college.
being young is a mentality. You can't you can't shit on Club Penguin. That was my shit, man. I used to play that so often.
Oh yeah, what did you do in it?
Dude, I used to hack it. I literally used to hack it and try to like artificially create new coins and money for me to buy like igloos and dance floors and all that stuff to the point where I got banned forever from the platform.
Oh wow.
So it didn't end well. I was just super bored as a kid, but I guess that's also indirectly influenced my way into crypto somehow. But not I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about more about you. Okay, so okay, grew up gaming, studied physics, worked at IBM, saw the mergers and acquisition side of things, and that led you to being a partner right now with Social Capital, right?
Yeah, I went to a startup, saw how that worked out. We sold the company, and then in that process, I realized how the investment process works. Is being at a company, we were in the first one of the first YC batches, 2006, and then we had raised a seed round, Series A,
Cool.
B. So I got a flavor for what the investment side liked and wanted to try it out.
Nice. Super cool. So at Social Capital, what do you guys kind of focus on? I know you guys are a relatively big firm, and I feel like you're agnostic, but what do you, I guess more specifically, what do you look for as an investor?
Yeah, we're a generalist firm. We've got a couple $1 billion under management across venture funds, SPACs. We do private credit as well, a bunch of different asset classes. I joined with Bitcoin in mind in 2013. So Chamath and I teamed up. We started thinking through where's crypto going. We put on a big trade back then, which has worked out well for us. We bought a piece of Digital Currency Group, and so that I've always been interested and attracted to the frontier of how consumer behavior is changing. We did a lot of healthcare education and SaaS investing at Social Capital. That was our mandate. But slowly I've been drawn back more to the crypto side. From last year, I've been focusing full time on this, and really on the consumer angle too. Like, how is crypto going to enable new ways of communicating, new ways of interacting? I think DAOs are interesting. New ways of governance, new ways of culture with what we're
Yeah,
seeing in the NFT space.
yeah, for sure. I think you called yourself a social token influencer, right? Which I think, respectively, on BitClout, obviously one of the top performing creators out there. If you're measuring it by your ticker price and also your level of activity, and you're a very big advocate of these creator coins, right? However you want to call them. What is it about social tokens that got you so excited to begin with?
What it was new. It was different. It was weird. It was addictive. It felt like there was some new behavior that was being unlocked beyond, I could go set up a Stripe account or a Shopify store, or, I have Venmo and I have a PayPal account, and that's all fine and good. But there's something about the speed, the global reach, the fact that it's crypto, it's on a blockchain, it's BitClout is a layer one, and this is not specific to BitClout, but I think the idea of social tokens. I can't set up a token on Rally, for example. I'm not a YouTube or a Vine or YouTube or Twitch or whatever streamer that has a huge following. So BitClout was just this very simple way for anyone in the world to go up and have a token. The simplest way in the world to issue a token right now, currently. I think that's on bitclout.com.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you mentioned all those examples in the beginning, those Web2 examples like Stripe, et cetera, et cetera. All those examples are basically forms of stable payments. Right now, if you're comparing stable payments to social tokens, they tend to be speculative assets or utility tokens, however you want to categorize them, right? Have you ever dived, what's the word? Have you ever just jumped into the idea of stable creator coins? Is there even a need for that? Because if you reference the examples of tipping creators, right, for example, and their native tokens, um, and their fans, which might not be as speculative intensive as maybe you and I are, that like to play with the market, they basically exchange and swap either their Bitcoin, USD, whatever it may be, for the speculative asset that then fluctuates in value that then they use to tip creators, right? Have you ever thought about what a stable creator coin would look like? Does that even make sense? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, one of the first experiments I did on the platform was I called it stable clout, and I asked people to keep a peg of my coin price at $8,888, so that if it went over, people would sell and buy. So trying to replicate an algo stablecoin of sorts with the community. There were no real incentives; it was just for fun. But yeah, I think it's a great point. Like, a lot of people don't want to be exposed to volatility on the day to day, and that affects their user experience. So I think keeping it in stable coins, and then only there's diamonds on the platform, which are basically a form of tipping, which you tip in your own creator coin, which is volatile. So that piece is a little weird, but I think to your point, yeah, that we need to. Not everybody wants to be exposed to volatility in all aspects of what they're doing. So that's definitely something that will need to evolve with the ecosystem.
Yeah. And you come from an interesting point of view because obviously you're an investor, you look at a ton of deal flow, you look at a lot of projects, and you guys got into BitClout for a specific reason, right? And you're seeing certain macro events occur that kind of piece together that led to the rise of BitClout. How would you argue the current state of the market? Where are we right now? And I only ask this question from the point of view of let's look at some moments in crypto that were quite defining. DeFi summer, August 2020, right? Introduced a lot of really, really cool projects, a lot of institutional capital. Now we saw the rise in March of NFTs, and now we're seeing a new hype cycle behind NFTs, OpenSea hitting daily highs for transaction volumes. Where are we right now in the social token space?
Very early. The social token wave is yet to crest. I think there was a little bit of BitClout mania upon launch. It's by far the Rally and Roll had a head start, but this is the first consumer-facing platform that's reached 1 million users and is available to anyone in the world. So I think I don't think this is sort of at the Friendster. If you compare it to the social network days, we're at the Friendster phase, where social networks not yet a word, similar to how social tokens not yet on the tip of everyone's tongues. But I do think it will have its moment, and I think right now you mentioned NFTs are the focus. That seems to have captured the community's imagination, and how you have this piece of ownership that you can, and now connecting that to DeFi is interesting, and then what's happening in gaming right now is interesting. I think people are getting more and more used to the idea that there are assets other than your standard layer 1 tokens or layer 2 tokens that have value that can be transacted in interesting ways, and social tokens takes that up a notch. If you spend any amount of time on BitClout, you know how many different interdependencies there are: the coin price volatility, the tipping mechanism, you managing your own coin and your own cap table of coin holders. It's very complicated thing, not only intellectually or financially, but also there's a social element to which I haven't seen before in crypto. Doesn't exist on other platforms.
Sure, sure. You know, it's cool because you're seeing all these like Chrome plugins try to mimic more NFT social elements on Twitter, right? By like mocking up and changing the interface design on a one player end, you know, adding a section for your NFTs, adding your name tags, all these cool like components. But you're right, there's no end-to-end decentralized platform that encompasses either the ethos of crypto, right? And allows people to trade and transact one another, and integrates this concept of social tokens. But you brought a cool example of we're at the point of Friendster. Okay, that's where we are right now. What do you imagine the point of Facebook looking and feeling like? Because that's a lot of innovation in between. It's a lot of like it a lot happened between the Friendster phase and the Facebook phase. What do you imagine the Facebook phase looking like?
Well, the biggest change that happened in the early 2000s was people getting wired up to the internet.
Right.
So I think at the similar phase, we're at, a couple 100 million users in crypto worldwide. I think people getting wired up to crypto is the biggest change that needs to happen. BitClout was unique in that it focused on a different audience than the hardcore crypto community, and some of the hardcore crypto community weren't so impressed with the way some of the growth tactics and how it launched. So it kind of alienated some users early on, and there's a very small subset of the global population that's using this and experimenting with it. And it's hard to onboard. It's hard to go from USD using Wire to confirm via your bank account to get a small amount of Bitcoin that, like you said, is a volatile asset, and then convert it for BitClout, and then convert it to creator coins. It's like a 5-6 step process that makes no sense to your average user, let
Yeah.
alone fees associated to, in Nigeria, is a user going to pay $20 transaction fee to swap USD to Bitcoin?
Yeah.
So there's some barriers there.
Yeah. I think once the world, the quote unquote, or society, however you want to categorize it, the mainstream becomes more innate with crypto primitives, right? Understand and see the value of ownership on a digital front. We're like seeing stepping stones towards that direction, right? With NFTs and people understanding the value of owning a JPEG versus copying and pasting or right clicking and saving a JPEG. So it's so fascinating to be, like holding like this moment in time and being a part of it, right? And you as an investor, when you see projects like BitClout, you have to think of all these different things. At least I'm assuming, okay? And this is from my background of working at a fund, okay? So when you got the BitClout deal on your hand, right? And you're thinking, okay, a decentralized social network, what could be like the long-term implications of this? How could this go wrong? How could this work well? Like, share with me that process of how you kind of analyze this project and what that looked like from your point of view.
Yeah. I guess in my limited experience in my career, some of the biggest value creation examples, some of the biggest startups that have ever been created are innovating around human communication. Whether it's WhatsApp, whether it was Facebook originally, whether it's think about Telegram, think about Snapchat, think about Twitter. It's always some form of changing the way we communicate. And so at the core, I think interhuman communication is a big problem to solve. And so anyone that sets out to do something different there, I'm already very interested in. In the case of BitClout, there's a problem that's very top of mind right now around getting canceled on centralized social networks. Who do you really own your account? Do you really own your data? Do you really have a platform to speak? Who controls that? I think that's a question that the community is struggling with right now at large. And so BitClout saw that and had a solution to that problem. So that was that was very timely. I don't know if people would have been as receptive to that idea 5 years ago, or certainly 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there are for sure like moments, like historical events, obviously, that happened in the past that would symbolize. Also on TikTok, all these like Gen Z creators, you're seeing them garner millions upon millions of followers and then just getting canceled and removed, you know? And then they create a new account and post a new video from like a zero following account. Be like, hey guys, this is actually me. This is not some like fake video. I got canceled on because TikTok community guidelines. They didn't like meet my last video standard. And yeah, if I don't get my account back, I'm never going to be on TikTok again, you know? And think about it, like years upon years of work of building that. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, no, it's maddening. I see it all the time on TikTok where, yeah, exactly what you said. You'll see people repost. My first account got taken down, and it's not even scandalous or anything like that.
Yeah.
So do you really own your Gmail account? Do you really own your Facebook account? You don't. These belong to the companies. All that data that's in there is for their benefit. No other company has access to it. It's anti-competitive in a way that no innovation can be built on top of your email, for example. It's hard to really allow for that. Superhuman aside, or other sort of email tools.
Yeah.
The underlying data in your friend graph, Facebook controls that. And Twitter, the fire hose, we know the issues that have happened with that in the past.
Yeah.
So I think that the premise of BitClout was let's give the data away for free and let anyone monetize on top of that data by offering the best consumer facing experience. And the theory is that should allow companies to compete at the application layer and not have a data mode at the data layer, so that they can't rest on their laurels and get lazy and sort of just have these huge monopolies. If any monopoly they would have to generate would have to be at the interface level by offering a superior consumer experience.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Like, I like that concept. Obviously, it's a quite the discussion in crypto of Jesse Walden talks about the ownership economy, right? And now we have platforms where you can invest in creators and be a part of their success, both financially and through the creative process. And people are getting really, really creative with how they either promote themselves, launch themselves and ingrain themselves with their fans, etc. But back onto the topic of decentralized social media, there's been a ton of buzz around this specific topic. And specifically when Jack started engaging with different community members, right? And how he's not really interested in either opening up Twitter specifically, right? So there's this new organization called Blue Sky, and obviously it picks up a lot of traction because crypto lives on Twitter, right? And when you're seeing all these discussions around other forms of decentralized social media, does that scare you at all? Do you feel like BitClout is in danger when more competitors come out? How do you kind of see the competitive landscape evolving over time?
No, I think a rising tide lifts all boats. I think people are just waking up to the idea that they don't own their data. I think that's starting to come into the consumer consciousness more. I think more examples of people trying to build this will only bring more attention and usage to these platforms. I happen to like the BitClout platform. It's fast, it's responsive, the developers are very committed. There's a large treasury to support the project. It's hard to do. I would really applaud Twitter and congratulate them if they can make it work. And I think that will only, it's also nice for competition to exist, because then that, different teams can learn from each other what works, copy each other, share technologies in certain ways. So I think it's better. The more people that are working on this problem, I think the better off humanity will be. So I'm encouraged by it. I think BitClout has a first mover advantage. It's a very smart team. They're in pole position right now. If they keep executing the way they do over time, it's going to be a long journey ahead. It's not. This is not it's speculative, but it's also a long-term project.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Adam Levy here. Sorry for the quick pause, but I want to give some love to our 5 NFT sponsors who are making this episode happen. They are Coinvise, POAP, Cello, Social Stack, and PrimeDAO. First off, on Coinvise, you can create a personal or community-owned social token on Ethereum. Coinvise also helps you create incentives through token rewards and bounties, NFT business models, and bot integrations for Discord. Discover more by visiting coinvise.co today. Next up, we have POAP, or short for Proof of Attendance Protocol, who enables a novel way of creating one's life diary. Leveraging NFT technology, POAP facilitates an easy way to mint non-fungible tokens related to meaningful events. It's frequently used in crypto-native communities, and now it's starting to create NFT collectors in the mainstream too. Collect or launch your own POAP today by visiting poap.xyz. Next up, we have Social Stack, a platform for communities, brands, and creators to build mission-driven social token economies. Offering an easy-to-use, non-custodial wallet with a suite of open-source community engagement tools, Social Stack makes it simple to bring your community into Web3 and be a part of creating an open-source, gratitude-driven future for social tokens. Create a free social token wallet, discover mission-driven social token communities, or apply to launch your own token on SocialStack by visiting socialstack.co today. Next up, we have Celo. Are you looking for an ecosystem of dApps, currencies, and tokens that can connect you with people no matter their device, carrier, or country? Well, say hello to Celo, a mobile-first platform that makes crypto dApps and payments accessible to anyone with a mobile phone. Celo supports thousands of projects from builders, developers, and artists who every day build applications and issue tokens from all over the world. Visit celo.org today to learn more. And last but not least, we have PrimeDAO, a collective of DeFi builders and DAO veterans attempting to turn DeFi into a more cooperative ecosystem by creating DAO-to-DAO interactions. The first solution to go live is Prime Launch, a launchpad experience for DAOs built in collaboration with Balancer. If you plan on launching a DAO, head over to prime.xyz to access a network of partners and tools that will jumpstart your DAO development today. All right, back to the episode. No, for sure. I mean, when I got started on BitClout, the weekend it went live, I got one of those like secret promo codes to open an account, and obviously like word around town spread that this person was investing and that person was investing, and there's this crazy new platform that's coming out and everybody's losing their shit. How do I get a promo code to join? How do I buy clout? So the go to launch strategy was really interesting. The whole FOMO marketing was executed perfectly. And I'm excited to see like the development of the platform and how other projects push out and think about decentralized social media. And like you said, like, when stories came out on Snapchat and how Instagram then integrated it, and then Twitter did it with fleets, and then everybody's kind of building. And I think, like you said, all boats rise with the tide. And as you see the space of decentralized social media develop, it'd be interesting to see how this concept of curation kind of comes intact, because as you know, Facebook beyond publishing also curates content, right? And suggests stuff for people. Same with YouTube, same thing with Twitter, keeps them on the platform longer and basically leveraging their data that they monetize to provide more relevant content. How do you see like curation protocols playing a role in being developed over the years and empowering platforms like BitClout or future Web3 social networks in the future?
Oh, yeah. I think it's super important. BitClout is the data layer, the blockchain. And so the node operators are going to have to figure out how do they engage their users and monetize. Maybe if that's one of the challenges BitClout faces, is how does it encourage a vibrant third-party developer ecosystem of node operators who will then go build consumer-facing applications that will then attract users to come join and monetize and engage. So I think curation on that piece, the infinite scroll is the best part of TikTok. That sense of satisfaction you get for completing these short videos, the dopamine hit, and then the unlimited, never-ending scroll. Those are two powerful features. So I'm sure there will be some novel engagement tricks and techniques that will be developed by some of these node operators that we haven't seen before, that are more crypto native. And maybe that's, you could imagine your wallet balance tops up as you engage for longer term, and you're, think about like Brave and Bat, like maybe you're benefiting from some of the ads that you consume, and you're constantly earning that way. I think, with Axie Infinity Play to Earn, there could be a similar model here of scroll to earn, consume to earn, interact to earn, engage to earn kind of model that doesn't really exist in a social network today.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, how would that look like? Another the example that comes to mind is the collaboration between Celo and SocialStack, and they implemented this concept called proof of listen. So every time you would listen to a podcast episode, you'd basically get rewarded in whatever token, right? So that's kind of like what you're hinting at, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do we call it? Proof of engagement, proof of activity.
Yeah, right.
To that extent, yeah.
Got it. Okay, I want to jump into your token, Artz. Okay, $ Artz, ARTZ for those who are listening or watching. So you obviously you create an account on BitClout, you automatically get your creator coin, you claim your account and connect it to your Twitter, you get the verification badge, you go through that whole onboarding process. Fantastic. We skip that part right now. Now that you have your coin, you're publicly trading on the market. People can speculate on you as a person and the content that you push out. Off initial thought, Did that scare you? Like, did that like give you any concerns? Did that freak you out at all? Like, how was that process like?
Maybe it should have. No, it didn't. Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I think the regulation aside, it was play. It was pure bliss. It was really enjoyable. It was curiosity. No one knew what to do. I created an account called a Cloutato account, where I would send people a fraction of a BitClout and ask them to keep a slice and pass it on. And the community responded. It was really cool. We talked about this stable cloud idea. I started doing some lightweight versions of raffles, some bounties. I just started
Cool.
experimenting with everything possible that you could do with having your own token. I have my own sovereign currency now. So
What you say you have your own sovereign currency, but in reality, I mean, technically it's a currency, but what can you do beyond just trading? Like, where does a utility come into play? How do you think about that?
yeah, I think you were right. Early on, it was a lot of speculation. Um, I think by in locking value into my coin. So I bought a bunch of my own coin. I exchanged BitClout for Artz coin, which then
Hmm.
through the bonding curve boosted the price of Art's coin. So now I have this asset that I can distribute to people in fractionalized ways. I can give you a fraction of Art's coin. The first thing I would think about is access. I haven't done anything with my community, but there's some creators. Um, think about Craig, who has a private Telegram group that coin holders get access to. There was a Substack sort of equivalent platform where you could write called Subclout, where you could write a blog post and have that be pushed out to all of your coin holders. So I think at the very first way a lot of us thought about it was it's sort of like a CRM, and your coin holders now are some of your VIP users, and maybe you have followers on social media on Instagram who will like your content, but this is like the next level of engaged users who are actually willing to put real money to support you, and it could be $1, it could be $1,000. The amount is that way. So that's more about just gaining access to a creator from a follower perspective. Uh,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
the other piece that you mentioned is financial, and so what is this? What does this asset really represent on the financial side? What's the underlying value? I think where things are heading is tying some form of cash flows back to coin holders. The first iteration of that the platform launched was NFT sales. So I can mint an NFT, I can sell it, and then a portion of the proceeds can go back to my coin holders, and I can tweak that ratio. So if I'm a prolific NFT creator, there's a real incentive for my coin holders to hold my coin because now they're going to be receiving some cash flows from those NFT sales.
Got it. And one thing you brought up that I want to touch upon really quick is basically a funnel, right? Bringing people on from one platform to BitClout, and whether it's BitClout or Ethereum or Coinvite, whatever the platform may be. Creators need to rethink how they promote themselves, how they advertise themselves, and what their call to actions are, essentially, right? And rather than being just like a swipe up, it needs to be more intentional to get someone to buy your coin or to earn your coin, right? If a creator would come to you today and they ask you, Andy, like how I want to get into social tokens. I love the concept of tokenizing myself, keeping my users a part of the journey, but how do I promote this to people without it feeling too sketch, right? Without it feeling like a cash grab. Like how do you imagine that line of communication being?
Yeah, I think it reminds me of in the gaming world, in the social gaming world, we had a concept in freemium games of power users. We would call them whales, the users who would spend over $1,000 in your game. It's usually a small fraction of the user base, less than 1%. Those are the users who drive 80% of the revenue. And so I imagine there's a similar segmentation of a creator's fan base. Who are the fans that are consuming? Who are the 5-10% of fans that are consuming 80% of the music, the content that it puts out, that buying the tickets? And so I would not think about this as a product right now that's suitable for your mass audience, but I would think about it as a product that's suitable for sort of the upper echelon of your fans. And then the second piece is, do you ask them to buy it? Do you ask them to put real money into it? And do you use it as a sort of fundraising platform for yourself or a monetization platform, or do you think about it as more of an access platform? I right now today think it's better suited for access. So I would create a token. I would boost the value of my own token myself, and then I would airdrop that to my top 1,000 fans, not asking them to buy anything, so that now they have a piece. I'm rewarding them for, in a way you think about like a cash back of sorts. Like it's a reward for being a part of my community, and then empowering them to, a lot of creators have this huge community, but they don't know how to tap into the intellectual capital that exists there and to mobilize that for their own benefit. If there's a developer in my community and I want to launch a website, or if there's some clever marketer that I need help with, paid acquisition for some campaign I'm running, or there's some musician and I need some help, scoring one of my TikTok videos. All those people exist in my community, and there are probably a few that are highly engaged. I would love to, use my token to at least connect with them, have them on a register of sorts, a CRM, so I can know who they are, and then engage with them in a more meaningful way, and transact and send value to them for, completing bounties for my community, things that I need help with, things that helping me scale.
Yeah, that's another big issue. The whole CRM component, with everyone being so anonymous, you can't really find out who your top collectors are just by a string of numbers and letters, right? There's no way to get in touch. You obviously know this, but so you're saying BitClout actually solves the problem of CRM, right? So it identifies, I guess, along like an address with an account, basically. That's what you're arguing, right?
The user would have to, yeah. BitClout will let me say, hey, here's my top 1,000 followers. And I would need something on top of that. If the user chooses to remain anonymous or pseudonymous, I would need something on top of that to stitch their email to their BitClout account or their phone number. And I could ask them. And we invested in a company called Moonbounce, which is stitching those together so that a creator can say, hey, go to this site, input your email, your phone number, join your BitClout handle so I know who you are. Sort of, a lightweight KYC of sorts for creators so that they can have their contact deals with their top fans.
Got it. Since you launched Artz coin, what are some like major things you learned that you didn't expect you'd find out along the way? Because managing your own community, having your own last name publicly traded, right? There's an element of doing something new, something experimentative, and I feel like that whole process was like a really cool journey, right? What are some things you took away since you went public, quote unquote?
Yeah, I guess I realized I was really impressed by the goodwill of the community. I thought going in that it would be like a, equivalent of like a stock price that people would rapaciously buy and sell, and looking at it from a profiteering motive. I've actually made some really good friends from folks who are coin holders of mine, Douglas being one of them. It's a pseudonymous account. We met up in person and we both hold each other's coin. We saw each other's activity on the site. And I made some great friends on the platform, and it's sort of transcended a financial aspect where, you're sort of holding a piece of, it's almost in a way, I don't want to go too far, but it's almost as if how you think about treating family with finances. It's not really business in a way. And so there's that element where you're aligning individuals, you're holding their coins. I've seen these really long-term mutual coin holding sort of handshake agreements emerge where people want to be invested in each other and support each other. That's another piece. I think just having there's a psychological component to it when you own a piece of someone, of their token. Changes how you interact with them. You want them to succeed. I'm much more generous with my time than I would be otherwise in the BitClout community. Partially because I hold these tokens, and I think there's a psychological hack in a way where my brain says, these are my allies. These people are part of my tribe now, in a way that, if someone just hits me up in email and says, hey, can we chat about this? I might be more reluctant to do so.
Yeah. So you're more likely to receive a reply from Andy if you buy his coin, at least $1,000. No, I'm kidding.
Or not even buy my coin. If I buy your coin, if I just see you on the site and I know,
All right. All right, you guys, not financial advice, not financial advice. Okay, so I want to talk to you, and you've probably heard this before, but I'd love to get your approach on the podcast of this Black Mirror scenario kind of formulating on the surface where everything is tokenized and brands, people, you name it, are publicly traded on the market, right? And well, with how things stand right now we determine influence by your follower count, right? And I feel like it's slowly shifting to a situation where we're going to start determining influence by your dollar amount, right? And in BitClout's case, it has both the follower count and the dollar amount, right? Do you see this world and this vision kind of becoming a reality where everything is tokenized, everything is publicly traded, and you having more social clout than me because you're trading publicly more than I am? Do you see that vision kind of unfolding?
Yeah, I do. I mean,
And how do you feel about that? Is that scary to you? Is that exciting? Or what do you think about that?
well, I think it's up for grabs. It's up to us to decide how we, how we want to fashion that. So I don't think, I believe we have agency in shaping this. But I do believe that the interesting thing about crypto is we have an opportunity to refashion the world and the power structures in a way that don't exist in the analog world. If we do nothing, maybe they just map over one for one. Billionaires today have plenty of power and status, and so if you're saying someone with $1 billion coin price has power and status, and is tokenized, and maybe a billionaire controls a publicly traded company, and now they have their social token, that's totally, kind of analogous. There's not a lot of difference there. It's different than the social media influencer that uh, has a bunch of followers and maybe isn't generating income. I love the fact that things are a lot more transparent. Living on chain, it's harder. It's not. It's still up for you know. I like the idea that everything you do is visible and you have to be accountable for your actions now, and those can be discoverable by anybody who has access to the chain and can knows how to use a database or knows how to read the block explorer. I like that a lot. People can still obfuscate what they're doing and hide it through other accounts and send it through tumblers. That's always possible, but I like being myself in the chain. When I post a picture of my 6-month-old baby, it's embedded on the chain, and now everyone can see it. And hackers and allies and foes and enemies, everyone has access to that image now, and
Right.
it's just cool that that's you're kind of putting all your cards out there in a way.
Literally. There's an element of fear to that, but I love your point of view of the experimentation of just trying something, because the vision that comes from that, the mission and what it can be, is explosive. I want to finish off with this final question, okay? And you obviously work at an investment fund. You see a lot of pitches, you see a lot of engagement from different projects, and also your partners have quite the history, right, in the internet space. And the development of the internet is something that really fascinates me, specifically the transition from Web 1, that was very much read only, right? That transitioning to Web 2/Web 2.5 with all these social communities and internet companies like Uber, Facebook, Stripe, etc., that enable commerce and engagement online and communities online. And now we're shifting into this concept of Web 3, where everything is decentralized, everything is tokenized, people are owners of the platforms, right? What's going to eat Web 3? What do you
Hmm.
think?
What's going to eat Web3?
Yeah, because Web 2 ate Web 1. Web 3, the bet is going to be eating Web 2, right? What do you think will be eating Web 3?
Hmm. Good question. What's next?
What's next?
Um, well, I think the arrow of time is pointing to the rise of the sovereign individual. And I think going from Web 1 to Web 2 to Web 3 has given pushed more and more power down to the individual to use technology to interact with their world and their lives. Um, I mean, the first thing that pops into mind is the metaverse. I think there's a lot of talk about that, but it's the very, very early innings. And so I guess the thing that would eat Web 3 is if Web 3 allows all of us to transact and have an economic presence, and the build out of these economic blocks online, where the financialization of everything that we do, the cryptification of everything we do online. I think that allows us now a different way of interacting, the exchange of value, a seamless exchange of value, and what follows from that would be, yeah, I suppose it would be like this. You would see more and more people setting up, I guess, building their lives increasingly online, more so than they're already doing today. Today, we kind of think about the internet as the remote control for our real lives, but maybe that flips, and we're spending the majority of our time earning our incomes, our livings, through these platforms. If you think about breeding horses in Zed Run, maybe that's just a joke today and a toy, or playing Axie, or but maybe I think Web3, maybe that's the tip of the iceberg, where it enables these DAOs and these communities of people to economically be productive. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's a hard question. It's a great
It
question.
is a hard it is a hard question. I only bring it up because one, it trips everyone because no one knows what the future is going to be, right? But it's always fun to look back at history and how the evolution of the internet kind of, piece together as to where we're at today in time. And one comment that I heard that I'd love for you to reflect on for a minute is what happens when everything is on chain? Everything, every piece of data, every transaction, every interaction, from likes to you name it. I'm personally fearful of anything too extreme, right? And when I was at, I forgot who it was. I think it was either Stani Kulichov from Aave or Jordan Lyle from Nifty's that said the fear of everything kind of being on chain and what that kind of looks like. Let's just play with this. I want to pick your brain for a minute. Let's say everything is on chain. Is that a good thing or a bad thing, and why?
Well, everything already is on chain, in the sense that our interactions, like if you think about the universe as the chain, we're already living on chain. It's just such a huge
Okay.
computer that we don't. It's a giant atomic computer. We don't have the ability to calculate. So this is just dumbing everything down and saying, okay, let's embed everything, on a chain we can actually read. And then I think that's really cool, because now it opens up a new possibility to have this third brain of sorts, that we don't have today. That is, you could, on the one hand, you could fearmonger and say, oh, it's this hyper surveillance police state that we'll be living in. On the other hand, you could say, oh, it's all these apps that can augment my daily life that we can create based on the data that we couldn't have before. So I'm in that camp where I want to put all my life on chain and think about all the biometric data.
Yeah.
Just, tell me what to do. Here's all my
Yeah.
data. I love that idea.
Yeah. 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 You're the person who loves it. And there's so many people that are in fear of that, right? Even though most people have nothing to fear or hide, right? It's just the element of being overexposed publicly. Right now, people are overexposed to an extent publicly based off what they post, but hyper exposed in the databases that store all the information on them, right? Like Facebook, Google, etc. I guess now we're coming to a point where all that data is publicly available. And as people create tools and ways to store alike on chain, right? Similar to what BitClout's doing. And we're now seeing companies like Rarible experiment with that from a social media standpoint of NFTs. And it's going to be interesting to see how this kind of plays out. But I think that's a great place to wrap up, Andy. Before I let you go, quickly plug yourself and where we can find you and the various projects you're involved with.
Yeah, I'm Andy Artz. You can find me on Twitter as Artz Andy, or on BitClout as Artz. Yeah, thanks so much, Adam. It's been great.
You got it. And last thing, I'll end with this. Right now, your token's at 6,500. We got to do a recap when it's at 100K. So I'll keep an eye out, and we'll do it again.